It's 12:17. Are you living lean? Are you hot or cold? Have you sold your soul? I'm back, and we're with one of my heroes, eh? Are you a fanboy? Do you like particular astrologers more than other astrologers? Look at this gentleman right here. Dane Rudyard, my mentor, actually told me to read his material. Yeah, so I've been reading his material all my adult life. And this brings us to our progressed moon in Aquarius. Yes, the moon has progressed into Aquarius, and I have a special presentation to add to our playlist tonight. And what is this special presentation? Well, it's a seasonal presentation. Yes, it's the cornerstone of all my astrology work that I have done over the last 20 odd years. Yes, and I'm not finished with it. I might be able to finish it this year, but who knows, right? It's up to the Father. I'm a Leo, and I answer to him, right? And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm answering to him, and I'm doing his job. I'm a Leo, born at 3 degrees Leo, 2 degrees, 30 odd minutes. I'll have to bring that chart up. But most importantly, my sun is in conjunction with my Jupiter Leo at 12 degrees. Yeah? Both of them are in between that 12 and 13, but these are very homey places for both the sun and Jupiter. Jupiter's right at home at 12 degrees Leo. I guarantee it. But so let's get on with it all. Let me see if I could actually bring this up to a decent reading level. Is it coming out nice here? I'm not sure, but yeah, good old Dane. He has this little level of information here that I'm going to fill you up with. And this first level of actional, right? The 16 degrees Cancer. It's a very important spot. I really like this spot. Let me put this down so it's a little easier for me to read here. Okay, so here we go. A keynote of 16 degrees Cancer. A deep concern with problems raised by the process of personality integration. After a person decides to follow a certain course of action, accepting a new allegiance, the results of this decision at the 3 basic levels of human experience, actional, emotional, cultural, and individual mental, have to be stabilized and consolidated. This is what is meant by the process of personality integration. In Asia, the great symbol of this process is the mandala. In the Christian world, we find in various forms the symbol of the cross. The Christian design is often simple and bare. It is reference to the crucifixion of a God-man that personalizes or emotionalizes the Oriental mandala can take an infinite variety of forms and can encompass a vast multiplicity of contents. It is psychological and cosmic. The square, the foundation of the mandala, potentially encloses diverse contents. The cross, on the other hand, represents conflict in action. It is a symbol of tragic overcoming. The mandala symbolizes integration of opposing trends and multi-bipolar energies. This is the first stage of the 22nd five-fold sequence. There we are, eh? It reveals a deep effort of the part of the individualized consciousness to reach a solid basis of understanding that will allow it to perceive the structural relationship of every part of the personality to every other part. It is a mental process implying study and inward turning of the attention, concentration. Even more, it is a symbol of what might at first be called conformation, that is a profound and stabilizing sense of form, but of one's own individual form, not an external social cultural pattern. This is the 16th degree of Cancer. And after reading this, I want to show you the next tab here. And the next tab here is the birth chart that I have selected. It's taken almost all my life to pinpoint a day that Christ would be born, because there's lots of charts out there, but I needed the chart to systematically and methodically designate the time and place of every Star of Bethlehem since before the birth of Christ and into 2080 per se. There would be like 105 I think I've looked at right here. And today what I want to bring to you are these dates. I'm going to bring them up to you. I'm going to go full screen on this. There's this one right here. I'm going to zoom up here so you're able to look at what I have put together here. You know, the individual that is sitting there arguing with organized religion, found in the ninth house, the structure of organized religion, but most importantly, a great star. A great star. Right there in Pisces. If you could think about what this would look like on the horizon before sunrise, because you would see this dynamic conjunction of, you can see it right there. It's a beautiful, but this is my star for Christ. And as you can see with the ascendant at Cancer, I mean, it's very much what you would think if you look at the stories of Christ and the Lion Lamb, and you could think about he's born before his time. You know, this is an individual who's born before his time, who is a man who speaks, not every servant is greater than his master, and not any master is greater than a servant. I mean, Moon in Aquarius, I mean, for sure. And then we look at what really fascinates me with this chart is that the sun here is in Aries, the lamb, right? And then you would have this chart at his sun at 3 degrees Aries. That would actually be trine my sun in Leo. But most importantly, his Mars would be conjunct my Jupiter, my natal Jupiter in the 4th house, the moon in 4th house, eh? Just think about having, a Leo 4th house mixed with this Cancer energy of the 4th house, with Jupiter sitting there at 12 degrees, and my sun being at 3 degrees Leo in the 3rd house with the Gemini ascendant. You can see how my chart actually fits up to this. So when we go forward here, I'm going to show you this. I mean, it's quite simple. I'm going to come out of this. We're going to move to the next chart. And what I have for you here is I have a collection of charts that will help you, no matter who you are. These charts, every 20 years this happens. Jupiter and Saturn will conjunct. And what will happen, because this is happening, this is right before the conjunction right here. And this is what I have. And then what we have here would be the 2020 date, which has just happened, marking this would be when you want to look at this chart right here that I have. This right here, I mean, on the Great Divide, you can see it's right here at 25 degrees Cancer. The ascendant is 25 degrees Sagittarius, right? But look, you can see this conjunction right here. And then we move forward to the second chart. Now, this is the 2040 star. And this is what we're moving to right now. The 2040 star will be in Libra. And how close will that conjunction be near Putin's sun is the question you should be asking. Because there's some interesting times coming ahead, folks, because this 2040 star that we're looking at right here, where the conjunction is at 17, it's just at 18 degrees, 17 degrees, 55 minutes. It's right there in the first house of Aries, right? We have this conjunction. This is why we don't need the asteroids, folks. When you have 2,000 years mapped out to Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions, and all these conjunctions will square. I mean, Jupiter will pass Saturn, he will square Saturn, then he will oppose Saturn, then he will basically square Saturn again, and then he will conjunct Saturn. This is it, right? It happens every 20 years. There's this sequence of events, and we're going to have them all out. The next Jupiter square Saturn is coming up, right? It's coming up in 2024. It's the first square of the process of Jupiter lapping Saturn. And we have to know these angles. As we know these angles, as we know them, for the last 104 charts, 102 charts. I mean, this is how many charts there are up until now, up until this date. This is the Grand Cross right here, folks. And this is the one significant chart that we have to make ready for. We are on our way to this chart. This is the chart, the major turning point that I see. And what I see here with this chart, as I have it drawn up for the ascendant, is that, I have it drawn up for the ascendant when the ascendant matches Jupiter, who's out in front in this square. And the moon is just beginning its opposition with Chiron, Mars, and Uranus. Now look at this. As I said before, my Jupiter is at like 12 degrees, 30 odd minutes Leo, right? So both on this day, Chiron will be conjunct my sun, Mars will be conjunct my Jupiter, and Uranus will conjunct my Jupiter. It'll be a true thing. And then when we look at the square, Neptune will be squared my sun, and Neptune will be squared Chiron. Look at this. This is crazy stuff. Look where the North Node is. The North Node is right. It was pretty much when King Charles was receiving his crown. But when you come over here and you look at this Jupiter placement, why this really stands out to me is that this Jupiter not only squares my natal Jupiter, but this Jupiter conjuncts whose Venus? It conjuncts Putin's Venus. And look where Pluto is. Pluto is at that magic 26 degree mark. Remember, I'm born on the 26th. It's a true thing. And on this day, the moon will be opposed my natal sun. All right, because my natal sun's right here. Big day coming. And I'm prepping for this right now, folks. I'm here with you, and that's one of the reasons why this playlist is started, because we are looking at new moons, small little events right now. We are tackling little situations here, right? That's what we're doing. But this all of what we're talking about right now goes to this date right here. It all goes here because this is the Grand Cross. This is what we just read. All of my charts joined together. Here's the Star of Bethlehem I have. Here's the actual star right here. After the birth of Christ, right here. You see, and the reason why I have it right here is because when you actually dissect this all up, the chart is not dynamic, right? The dynamics of the chart that I have for the birth of Christ, this doesn't match. I looked at that. I've looked at all kinds of charts, but when I found that one, and I read through all the texts, every single thing I could read about the birth of Christ, I read it. Here is the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, my very first one I studied in present day. And believe me, I have 20 years documenting 104 charts, 105 charts, and even more, that I am going to share with you here over the days to come. I mean, I have them all set out here. This is for Washington, D.C. These are for exact times. As I said before in other podcasts, we are ending a time period of this current time period of the star finding itself in the earth signs. I'll move on to the next one here. Here's our 2080 date, folks. Yes, I've gone to 2080 with these. This is what we're looking at here. And once again, Neptune for the 20. I hope to be alive, all right? When Neptune conjuncts my sun, I hope to be in such a form that I can still write about this day. And that's what everyone's living for something, but I would love to live through all what we're going through right now to get to this Neptune conjunct sun. I've looked at this, and this is the exact moment, right? I mean, this is just right after the crosshairs, right? And look where Pluto is. Pluto is at 13 degrees. Pluto's at 13 degrees. Pluto will conjunct my natal Saturn on this day of Jupiter conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. I think this is going to be one of the most dynamic Aquarian years that they see, because we have Uranus oppose my sun, and then we have the moon perfectly opposed my. The moon is going to be perfectly opposed my natal Mercury in the second house of Cancer. Yeah, the second house of Taurus in the water sign of Cancer. That's where my Mercury is. And then Mars will be trine. But look at this. Mars will be trine my natal Jupiter, only about 4 degrees out. But I'm looking at these dates. I'm working hard to be alive for this date, to see Neptune cross over my sun. What's next here? But as you can see here, I have plenty of charts. I have charts. This would be 20 years. This one would be 20 years. This one would be 20 years, I believe, after the death of Christ. You can see where it is, and there is significant events with all these every single year that I have here. I only brought up a few because it'd be crazy to try to show you 104 charts in one single podcast. But they're new moons, right? They're new moons, and they all connect to each other, and they all spiral out from this time period. I have here's 94 AD. All these are absolutely significant years with much historical data. And I kept them going because I wanted to know. I wanted to see this full cycle. This is the astrology of the new millennium, folks. This is what Dane Rudyard would love to see, as to have every 20-year sequence before the birth of Christ, 20 years before the Christ, as far back as there's substantial information. And I have it. I actually have it. Like, I keep on showing you more and more dates and how they interlock with each other, right? It's absolutely crazy what I've done. And these are not all the charts. I have lots more. But I wanted to keep it simple tonight. And I wanted to bring you up to speed about where, because this is the moon in Aquarius. This is the future. The Aquarius rules astrology. And I have had many great teachers, including people like Sidney Omar, who has encouraged. I've read almost every single published book there is to read by Cindy Omar. It's one of the reasons why I do astrology of battles and wars and turns of tides and everything like this, because I know Sidney Omar was an astrologer that worked for the U.S. Navy. I knew he had workings with the military, and that's one of his first occupations. But look, folks, I'll take you up to the beginning here again. This is the moon in Aquarius right now. In the next day or so, this is where the moon will be transiting. You can see that this chart that I have for Christ, in the next months to come, Saturn will in fact cross over all these planets right here. But most importantly, Saturn will come up very soon to this placement of Saturn at 14 degrees. I want you to think about this, okay? I want you to look at this date. This is a quality date. I've looked at every single aspect of the chart. I've studied. I've been in church since before I was in kindergarten. I've been in church, right? So believe me, this presentation right here would make my mother absolutely proud of how much work I've done to understand the history of this thing we call the Star of Bethlehem. And to this point, what I have before you, what I'm about to present to you through this very first video, as the moon moves through Aquarius, which is my partnership house, being a Leo of 3 degrees, but most importantly a Jupiter of almost 13 degrees as well. This is the only way I see what I have come across here and seeing the cyclic of events, the sequence of events over the last 2,000 odd years. This is it. I mean, this is everything. This information should, in fact, end all wars and all civil wars, and most importantly, in all religious wars that may be connected to the Star of Bethlehem. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and I guarantee you every single presentation we bring will be as original and as true to the point as one can possibly make it for his Father above. All the best, and happy holidays to you. Over and out.